First of all, dude's gonna like really love cats.
Yes.
I mean, dude better be okay with 20 to 100 cats hanging out in
Yes.
that house. Uh, second thing is he needs to be okay with the emotional ups and downs of Debbie and her cat Fancy. And I'm just telling you, that's the right kind of marketing. All right, welcome back to Ed Talks Live. This is episode 555. It's actually episode 2. It's actually episode 2. We just numbering these based off of my favorite numbers. This one, by the way, is Isaiah 55:55, worth a read. Surely you will summon nations you know not, and nations you do not know will come running to you. So here we are, actually in episode 2. What's up, Kristen?
What's up with you, Ed? What are we going to cover today?
All right, a couple things. So first of all, we're going to cover last week. We had this viral video that we broke down from a marketing perspective. We're going to do that again. Then we're going to take an audience question. We're going to have a lot of fun on the way. So let's get rocking and rolling.
Well, before we get started, I have to ask, how was your week?
I had a scare this week. So actually, it was started 2 years ago. So the short story is 2 years ago, I went to the VA dermatology clinic. I don't know if you're watching this on video or listening on audio, but I am a Nordic man. My ancestors lived in an area where they may have gotten sun 4 to 5 hours a day, and probably none in the winter. And so my skin is very white and susceptible to the sun. So they say every year I should go to the VA. And I've got bumps and moles and all kinds of stuff. And so when I go there, this lady, the same doctor every time, Dr. Han comes in, puts the bright lights on, and then she has this lit up magnifying glass thing, and she looks at all the stuff on my body. Last time, 2 years ago, she was looking at my forehead, this area right here. Just for context, I don't wear sunscreen. I take JoJo for long walks. I don't wear hats. I just don't. I never really have. And so she's looking at this part of my forehead right here around my temple. And she goes, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. She starts counting. She goes, you have a whole bunch of precancer lesions growing in this area of your forehead, you know?
Oh, no.
Now, I didn't hear anything other than that word that starts with C, you know?
Yes.
You're like, hey, wait a second. So I said, well, what do we need to do about that? And she pulls out this bottle. It's like this big metal bottle. It's like a nitrogen gun or something. And she goes, typically what we do is just freeze them off. And that typically will take care of the growth. And I said, well, how long do I have to wear bandages after you shoot me with that thing? She goes, typically the scarring will go away after 2 weeks. I said, what? I have an event next week, you know? So I said, I can't walk into my event with like bandages all over my face. So I said, can I come back in a couple of weeks? She said, sure, just go to the desk, schedule your return appointment. We'll get you back here in a couple of weeks. We'll freeze everything off and you'll be fine. So I go to the desk, open up my calendar. They open their calendar. Their clinic is open 1 day a week. I cannot find a day in like the next 2 months that fits into my calendar. So I said, look, I'll just call you and we'll try to find something. So I called back. The next date they had was literally 6 months into the future. But they said, if you call every week, you can check in and see if there's a spot or not. So basically I called every week for like a few weeks, no spots. I kind of kicked the can down the road. And bottom line is 2 years go by. like that, you know? And
were you not scared though? Like,
yeah,
I don't understand.
I kind of forgot about it for a little while, but then when I remembered, you're thinking, I'm going to die.
Yes.
You know, you lay awake at night because you're like, what? How dumb, dude? The woman looked you in the eye and said you have pre-cancer, and it's 2 years later. I remember laying in bed and I was imagining, because you always imagine the worst. I was imagining, you know, I had to like peel half of my face off, or you know, replace me with another, like a Mission Impossible.
They do that
like,
now. Yeah.
Print a new face, you know. Remember they used to like give you a whole new face. I could be anybody. What face would you like? I'll take Brad Pitt and, you know, Val Kilmer in his youth. So I thought they were going to have to peel my skin off. Anyway, bottom line is I got scheduled to go back to this lady. I waited for months and I went into the office this week. Needless to say, I'm a little nervous because it's been 2 years, dude. And first of all, I think Dr. Han is going to scold me. And second, I'm sure whatever it is has grown, you know. So she puts me under the hot lights and she takes out her magnifying glass light and she starts looking at all the spots. And she goes, well, it looks like you're fine. And I said, well, wait a second. What about the pre-cancer? She goes, I looked in all of the areas that I made in my notes. And she goes, there's just nothing there.
Nothing there. Is that God? Was that God? Did he heal you?
I mean, I should say this before I start going down this road. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientific researcher or anything like that. Ultimately, Kristen, the answer to your question is yes. Because I think
Mm.
any healing, like for example, you cut your skin and you put a
Yes.
Band-Aid on it and it heals. Yeah,
Mm.
you healed and God healed you, right? He gave you
Mm.
this amazing DNA coding and blood that plugs the hole and all kinds of. So yeah, like ultimately God healed me. I don't know. I bought it. By the
Mm.
way, I have no idea. Unless you change your habit patterns, like unless you stop going out in the sun or whatever, there's no reason to indicate that should go the other way. But it's
Yes.
completely clear. I think part of it is I'm just a different person than I was 2 years ago. I'm
Mm.
operating at a different frequency. I'm connected to God at a much deeper level. And I actually think there's a certain space you can get into emotionally, spiritually, metaphysically, where your body is actually able to heal itself more effectively. Like when you're in a place of peace, rest, love, joy, your body actually can just heal itself better. And I think we were designed to take care of, frankly, a lot of the problems. And my guess is my body kind of took care of the problem. Is that amazing?
It is amazing. I have a thought, and I wanna throw it out there. Okay, so
You're
God
saying you're going to say, I'm happy you have a face.
well, yeah, okay, I'm happy you have a face. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Because
appreciate that.
we could have ended up with somebody else, you know?
You could have
Um,
ended up with, I could haven't had a mask. And by the way, it couldn't have, maybe it wouldn't have been my mask. Maybe it would have been Billy Bob Thornton from Sling Blade. And then you're like, man, I wish that I had the old Ed back. But
yeah,
anyway,
the
good.
old yeah, you were supposed to wear bandages during this
That's
episode if
right. I forgot about that. So I told you a week ago when we were scheduling this, I said, when I show up, I'm probably going to have bandages.
Mm,
And you said, well, maybe that will be good for you to be more transparent with your audience. So
yeah.
you remember, you're like, it would be good to be transparent. So
Okay,
no
so I have a
bandages, dude.
question I
Yeah.
really wanna throw at you. This is something that I've been trying to understand, and hopefully I can articulate it. Okay. Belief is not something that we just say, "Oh, yeah, 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 I believe that," right? Belief needs to become your truth. So the opposite of your belief is a lie. And then it kind of applies to this as well. Because if we have the faith and the belief that God can and will, like, can I program my brain to believe something to the point that my body reacts to that belief?
Yeah. 100%. So I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
I have a team member, one of my team members who is an agnostic. Okay.
Mm, mm.
And when I say that, by the way, when I say that publicly, especially when I say it in front of an audience that's like mostly Christian, people
Yeah.
are like, oh, you know, and I've
Yes.
had people go, how could you do that? Aren't you afraid that the enemy will infiltrate your business? And I go, no. I said, there's no place in the Bible that says you need to be afraid of the enemy. There's a lot of places in the Bible where it talks about the enemy being afraid of you. And
Mm,
my goal is the enemy to look at me hiring someone and go, oh man, we're going to lose that guy too. You know?
mm,
So anyway,
mm.
my agnostic team member who's very honest and very transparent, I was telling him a story, and I'm going to tell you the story that I told him, and then I'm going to tell you his reaction to the story.
All
So
right.
the story goes like this. I'm at an event. Actually, this is one of the events when you and I were doing events back in 2016, 17,
Mm.
whatever. And I was doing these little optional sessions where I would like teach this whole
Yes.
God talk stuff, right?
Yes.
So I'm teaching. I'm still new at all this, but I'm
Mm.
just allowing God to move and I'm learning in the process. So I'm in the middle of teaching and my left hand starts throbbing. What is the deal with my hand? And I'm in the middle of teaching this God talk stuff. And finally, I just stop and I go, all right, listen, let me ask you a question. This whole audience, like 200 people here. I said, does anyone here have a hand problem, like carpal tunnel or some sort of neurological problem or muscular or skeletal problem? Because I have, my hand is sore and I don't have a problem with my hand at the moment. And my guess is God's trying to get me to pray for someone's hand.
Mm.
So I said this, like, it takes a lot of courage to say this in an
Yes.
audience. And dude, there's like crickets. Everyone's looking at me like I just grew an asparagus out of my forehead. And I was like, oh man, and I couldn't. Nowadays, you can get away with it. Nowadays, you can
Yeah.
get away with it. You can go like this. You can go, well, it's probably someone on Zoom. It's probably
Mm.
someone online, maybe watching the live stream. You can always like flub the live stream situation, you know. Eventually, somebody from the second row, this very shy little woman, she's like, you know, my hand hurts. She's like, come here, come on up here. And I said, what's the problem? She said, I've had carpal tunnel, real pain in my hand for years. And I said, well, let's just pray for you. We'll just ask God to just bless you. And I prayed for her. And in that moment, and I don't see this happen instantaneously very often, but in that moment, the pain out of her hand went away. She got full movement back in her hand. She was pretty amazed. And then she sat down. Okay. So that's the first part of the story. That night, I'm doing a reception for my coaching members and people who want to be coaching members. And this woman walks up to me and she goes, hi, Ed. My name is Jeannie. I just have to admit something to you. She goes, I walked right into the room. And the moment I walked into the room this morning, you said, is there anyone here who has a hand problem? And the moment you said that, I knew that was for me. You see, I've got this issue. And she started explaining the skeletal issue that she had in her hand. She goes, but I don't really believe in God. And she goes, I certainly wasn't brave enough to walk up and get prayed. Then I saw that woman who got healed. It's funny. She recognized, I saw that woman get healed. And I was so happy that God chose her instead of me. Right?
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, listen, Jeannie, God's an abundant God. So could I pray for your hand? She goes, sure. And I prayed for her hand at the party that night. And she gets her hand instantaneously healed at the party.
Wow.
So, dude, we got a 2-for-1 special on hands getting healed that particular day.
Yes.
So now come back into the room with me and my agnostic team member. I just got done telling him that story, which is a crazy, great story, right?
Yes.
And he goes, I just don't buy it.
Oh.
He said, I just don't buy it. And I said, look, I get it. I said, you maybe think I prayed for that person. The person's mind sort of believed it and kicked in, and maybe the mind or the subconscious mind just went and healed the hand. And he goes, yeah, that's right. He goes, it's just sort of the mind deciding that it was going to do that. And I said, look, what's more of a miracle that God reaches down from heaven and touches a person individually, or that God coded your whole system, your neurological system, your heart system, your cardiopulmonary system, your skeletal system, your muscular system, and all the DNA. What's more crazy, that God gave you a miracle out of heaven, or that God coded this entire system, that in that moment you think about it, and actually the moment you believe it, the body begins to follow. And so to answer your question, I actually think it's both. One, I think God just touches people. But second, I think God's given people in general the ability to fix a lot of their problems simply through the way that they're thinking. And fundamentally, the God Talks book is like that story, right? It's a story about how do you change the way you think, and then you change everything.
That's so cool.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I'm glad I asked. I was like trying to figure it out. I knew you'd have the answer. Speaking of answers, we have an audience question, but before that, I found this clip and I want you to break it down from a marketing perspective again.
So like last week, we're breaking this down from marketing. All right, let's do this. Boom.
Hello, my name is Debbie. This is my first attempt, at a...
I've seen this one before, by the way. This is old school.
Yes.
This is oldie but goodie internet marketing viral video. All right, we're going to break this. I have to get my pen, though, because I've never broken this down from a marketing perspective. I just enjoyed watching it.
eHarmony video. This is my first time at online dating, so I'm nervous, but I'm excited at the same time. So I'm just gonna start talking about what I like and hope I get some replies. So I am a recent MBA grad from Villanova.
Nice, Debbie's from where I grew up.
I love cats.
I remember this.
Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I love cats. I love every kind of cat. Sorry, I really love cats. And I just want to hug all of them, but I can't, because that's crazy. I can't hug every cat. But I just want to. I want to. I'm sorry. I get, anytime I hear cat, I love cats. Promised myself I wouldn't cry. So anyway, I am a cat lover, and I love to run.
Oh, something else. I finally.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking about cats again.
I'm thinking about cats.
I think about how many don't have a home and how I should have them and how cute they are and how their ears and the whiskers and the nose. I just love them and I want them and I want them in a basket and I want little bow ties. I want them to be on a rainbow and just in my bed, and I just want a house full of them, and I just want.
I can't take it anymore.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
Kristen,
So okay, I have a question
Debbie's
first.
still single.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think, I know it was so long ago, but do you think it was like a spoof? Like it was supposed to be funny and like
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I
So
never know.
I'm gonna get to that, but I'm gonna tell you. I think I know. So, first things first. That's an amazing video.
Thank you.
Second, Debbie's still single. She's still looking for that one guy. No, that's not even true. So here, I want to break this down from a marketing perspective, because about halfway through that video, I was like, this is either the worst video I've ever seen, or this is the best video I've ever seen.
Yes.
Because there is a principle, you've heard me talk about this before in marketing, called attract and repel. So let's say you just sort of run it right down between the middle. You're trying to make everyone happy. I just want to make sure that everyone's happy, and on this side and on this side, and they'll just all come to me. You will get no one ever. The best marketing does two things simultaneously: attracts the right people and repels the wrong people. And I will give you an example. Early in the show, and actually halfway through the show, come to think of it, I told two separate stories. I told one story about me getting healed or healing myself with regard to the cancer that was growing on my forehead. Then I told another story about something that happened at my event, which is very supernatural. And I will tell you without any hesitation or purpose of evasion that there will be people that listen to that story who will go, man, that's awesome. I knew I liked this guy. I need to go to one of the events. And there will be people who listen to that story who go, I'm never listening to this guy again. I don't believe that happens. I don't believe in that funny, fancy mumbo jumbo. I only believe that God used to heal people back in the Bible, but not now. And they're going to move on. And the point is, you need to be happy to let those people go in order to attract these people. And this lady's marketing, it was perfect. The person she attracts, are you kidding me? The person who shows up to be the love of her life, first of all, dude's going to like really love cats.
Yes.
I mean, dude better be okay with 20 to 100 cats hanging out in that house. Second thing is he needs to be okay with the emotional ups and downs of Debbie and her cat Fancy. And I'm just telling you, that's the right kind of marketing. Now, to answer your question, I think this video came out in 2010. If I remember correctly, this girl's name really wasn't Debbie. I think it was like Kara. She showed up in a Super Bowl commercial. By the way, she got paid to show up in a Super Bowl commercial. The story behind this is she created that video as a joke to post on her sister Debbie's eHarmony page.
Stop.
Is that the greatest practical joke ever?
Yes.
She pulled this off, dude. She pulls this off. Check it out.
Still roll around. I can't. I can't.
That's amazing. The acting.
Yeah.
Sorry. I get, anytime I hear cat,
Question is, how close to the real version of Debbie was that? Like, dude, this is her sister. She knows her sister really well. Anyway.
Yeah.
Is that amazing?
It is. It was a great video. I thought it was, I take things to be literal. So I thought it was literal when it happened. But now that we're looking at it, I'm like, was that just a spoof? And it was. That's hilarious.
I thought that it was real the first time I watched it.
You did? Okay.
I thought it was real the first 75 times I watched it. I just remember passing it around to my friends. I'm like, dude, this is the greatest video I've ever seen. I got fooled for like 12 years. So
can I ask you an off the cuff question, Ed?
Was that the question?
Well, no, that's not the question, but this
Okay.
one is like, no, there's no nothing. Do you think that religion gets in the way of people?
You talking about related to that girl or just in general?
Just in general, like you were
Oh,
talking about how people will react. Some will
yeah.
be like, I love this guy, and others are like, oh, I hate them. Do you think it's because of organized religion
Yeah.
that's why they? Okay,
Yeah,
can
I
you
think
tell
it's
me
because
why?
of so when I grew up in the church, I really believed in the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Bible.
Mm,
There was very little Holy Spirit involved in
mm,
any of the things that I did. And I was really dedicated and serious about reading my Bible and understanding the Bible. And I used to take courses in something called systematic theology, which is literally a breakdown of the theological constructs of the Bible. And you end up actually allowing that to be your God. It's like this. Imagine getting married, but instead of actually knowing your husband, you just read books about your husband all the time. And
mm,
meanwhile, your husband's sitting over there like, do you want to talk? That
right.
was my relationship with God. I was more interested in reading and understanding the doctrine than actually having a conversation with the real God that actually sits there. And what I was missing, truly, what I was missing during that time in my life, I wish I had a time machine that I could go talk to me. I was missing curiosity, wonder, and a sense of risk. Okay. So
Mm,
when I say risk, is you know what? It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to try something and maybe that it doesn't work out. So remember when I told the story about my hand feeling sore and then I prayed for that woman and then it worked out. Well, I've had other times where I felt something or sent something and I asked the person to pray or I asked an audience and nothing happened and no one responded and I felt like an idiot. That
mm,
that's just risk, right? That just involves risk. And sometimes doing the right thing involves risk. And there's no one who's ever been perfect. And even in the story, there were stories where the disciples were like, I tried to cast this demon out and it didn't work. Like
mm,
there's stories where it doesn't work, right? And so I would just tell people like one of the most powerful things you can have as a believer is a sense of curiosity. We have come to the conclusion that the church today has come to the conclusion that everything we need to know about God, we've already figured out, we already know. Let me tell you, we got tens of thousands of years here and probably another in eternity number of years to even scratch the surface on our understanding of God, you know?
yes.
And so
Yes.
he's so huge, he's so big that the wonder, you have to have curiosity and wonder, and then you need a willingness to risk. You have to have the willingness to be let people like, I'm just going to give it a try. Now, just to set some framework on this, I always tell people combine curiosity, wonder, and a sense of risk with a group of people who you're running with. I have a 24/7 prayer team, 24 people that pray around the clock. I've got a group of guys that we get together all the time, sort of like our little text group. I've got another prayer team that I pray with once every single month. So
Mm.
let's say I'm just like, I'm going to have curiosity and wonder and a sense of risk. And so therefore I'm going to do cocaine and see if I connect with God. Well, like if I went to any of those three groups and I
Mm.
was like, hey, I'm going to be curious. What do you guys think about this? They would all be like, dude, don't do the cocaine. You know what I mean? But if I was like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? Every morning, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm just going to sit on a hillside with my eyes closed. I'm going to just wait there for an hour and see what happens. If I asked any of
Mm.
those three groups, they would go, hey, man, go for it. See what happens. Come
Yeah.
on, give it a try. And my point on saying that is people get criticized who are curious and they get criticized because they don't have that backstop,
Mm.
So I tell people to have curiosity and wonder and risk. Just have a little backstop. Have some people you can bounce your ideas off of.
Yeah.
So, but what you said is right. The moment that we have it all figured out, our culture's like this too. Like we're pretty sure we have like science, like we've got medicine figured out. It's like we're like so far from having to figure it out.
Yeah,
It's a
we
wonderful
are.
question, man. Great question, Kristen.
Thanks for letting me go there. So I have another question for you. This one's from uh, the audience. Okay, I'm going to read it. It says, "Hi Ed, God transformed my life completely, and during this radical transformation, he gave me some knowledge. I know that it will help other believers handle the fire of refinement. And for some reason, I have a mental block at looking at this like something I can monetize.
Oh,
Therefore, it goes into the category of free. Is this my own brain stopping me?" And I just like try to justify it by saying, well, Jesus laid down his life for free. So yeah, that's from, oh, Kristen.
is that your question? Is that you,
It's my
Kristen?
question. Sorry.
Wait, you
Yes,
wrote the question down and just
I
read it? Oh,
did.
I like
Yeah, I
it.
just read it, but it's mine. Yeah,
And that's a question about you too, yeah?
it is. It
Oh,
is.
good. Hey, good
Yeah.
job.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having the courage to ask this question on this show. on the less trafficked early episodes of this show. So
God's a miracle worker, Ed. God is a miracle worker. Yes.
first time I uploaded episode 1 a few days ago and onto YouTube, and in like an hour it had 4 views, and I was like, oh man. Just so you
He'll come
know,
through.
the kid will come around. Don't judge your internet success in the first hour. Oh, that's
Yeah.
all I can say. YouTube's still trying to figure out what this video is all about.
Yeah,
Anyway.
they didn't get the download from God yet. Yeah.
Yeah, no. YouTube's algorithms are like, what? So back to this anonymous Kristen lady's question. Man, this is such a good question. And I will say I definitely get some critical heat around this question too. So I will get comments on YouTube posts, or I'll get comments online or emails that come in. And the question I often get is, so you're charging money so that you're charging money for people to hear from God. That's what they'll ask me. And I'm like, hey, Bubba, that is kind of a twisted way of asking that question, right? All right, so let's answer this question. And let's start with some guardrails, because this is super important. This is not the kind of question that you can answer with sort of a black and white, yes or no, across the board. And in the last discussion about the church sort of not, knowing the heart of God and not being curious enough, this is true too. Spiritual questions are very difficult sometimes to answer black and white. Not everyone. Should I murder that person? No.
Right.
Black and white. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other questions like, what college should I go to? How, not only should I charge for this, how much should I charge for this? That's another question, right? Is it like, I do events called God Talks Live. Is it okay to charge $100? What about $300? What about $500? Like, is there a number when you get past it that's, quote, too much? You'll see people say that all the time. I had a friend of mine who's a pastor who did a separate business event. He charged $4,000 for the people to come to the business event, and he had 60 people that showed up. And there were people online who were saying that's just too much. And I replied, I charged $25,000. Is that too much too? It's like, who says, like, who to determine? So let's put 2 guardrails. I think it's important just to say, like, whenever you're talking about wisdom, it's important to know what the Bible says about these things and to understand the sides of the argument that have guardrails. First things first, Matthew 10:8, Jesus says, freely you have received, freely give. Contextually, my sense is he's talking about the gospel, healing, gifts of ministry, the outpouring of the Spirit, all the things that the apostles have received. However, there's a verse on the other side. So Proverbs 11:26, one of my favorite verses of all time, said, cursed is the one who withholds grain. So the first part of that, cursed is the one who withholds grain. I think we can all agree with that. Someone who holds back in a time of need when they have something that someone needs, that they shouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Cursed is the one who withholds grain. And the verse continues on to say, but blessed is the one who sells it. That's a transformational idea.
Yes.
Cursed is one who withholds grain. I think if the Bible was written in 2025, it would say, cursed is the one who withholds grain, but blessed is the one who gives it away and gives it away and gives it away and gives it away. And so what you're seeing when you look at the guardrails is there's different things that you can do with the ideas, the time, the wealth, the wisdom, the resources, and the gifts that God has given you. You can give them away. You can sell them. You can lend them. You can allow someone to use them for a certain period of time. There are a lot of options that you can do, and it takes wisdom to determine which one. Now, it is important when you're making this decision, if you have this idea that selling anything or receiving money for anything is inherently evil, you will not make a good decision. I got this call once. This is like right in the beginning when I was doing business. I had this course. I had left the Marine Corps. A year later, I had a course teaching young men and women how to be fighter pilots. And it was changing people's lives. I was selling about $150,000 worth of this product every year. People were sending me stories about the transformations they were getting, picked for flight slots. It was awesome.
Wow.
And then I got a voicemail from a Delta pilot. It was like a Delta captain. I still remember his name. This was like 18 years ago. This guy's name is Doug Merchant. And he left me this. Someone said, send this to your friend Doug Merchant. He sent me this long voicemail. I hope that you're not leading these people astray. Can't believe you charge money. He was so upset. This Delta pilot was so upset that I was charging people money. Now, last I checked, I flew Delta overseas on an international flight You know how much it costs to fly Delta? I actually flew Delta One. You know how much it costs to fly Delta One?
I have
to
no idea.
Amsterdam and then to India is what I did. It's a lot of money. And I was like appalled that Delta, I got on that airplane and I was like, how could you charge someone money for this flight?
For this flight.
You know, how could you charge money? And they're like, sir, excuse me. I said, well, your pilot, Doug Merchant, doesn't believe in charging money for things, you know. Anyway, I didn't do that. I just got the blanket. I got my little blanket and our headphones on. My point is, like, when it comes to like flights and commodities and groceries, we're used to exchanging value, but we live in this really new world of information, you know, and it feels a little, it feels a little off sometimes when you're trading information, when you're trading ideas, when you're exchanging wisdom, when you're exchanging knowledge, when you're exchanging your time. And that's when I go back to Proverbs 11:26 and just say, like, blessed is the one who, Kristen is one who withholds grain, and blessed is the one who sells it. If it involves, for example, your time, your experience, your wisdom, your knowledge, your implementation, your ideas, I have no problems and no qualms at all charging money. In fact, there's another verse in the New Testament that says a laborer is worthy of his wages. And actually that particular verse is talking about paying people who minister the gospel. So, so run with that. A laborer is worthy of his wages. I'll do that sometimes with people who like start talking themselves down. Like I'll have people who I'm like, hey, I'd love for you to come in and do X at this event. And they're like, no, I'll just do it for free. And I'm like, dude, a labor is worthy of his wages. So can you just let me pay you? You know, I'll like negotiate for them with me.
And I feel that way. I mean, I'm in agreement with that as well. It's just the idea that he gave me the information and for me to actually walk out and charge for it. Maybe I have to do something different with that specific piece of information. I don't know.
Or go to Exercise 5 in God Talks. Go right. iTunes has it. The book's got the link to the online audios as well. God Talks Bonus is the website. Go to episode 5 of God Talk, or episode audio number 5 of the God Talks audio series. What lies do you believe about money? Do the exercise and ask that question from God, because sometimes your inability to charge what you're worth comes down to you and money, not sort of you having lies about money. It's going to make me a bad person. I've seen money hurt people before. You know, you got stories in your life where money, you know, your dad saw someone with money and was like, oh, that guy probably, you know, sells drugs or whatever. And reset your view of money. That's one of the most helpful things you can do, because fundamentally money, you're blessed to be a blessing. So if you can acquire resources and you're a good person, which you are, you're going to be able to help more people. So
yeah, thank you. So where would people be able to actually access this information? I mean, I know where I can access it.
Kristen, I love that question. So the website's godtalks.com. The book's available on Amazon. The actual audios are at godtalksbonus.com. It's God Talks Bonus. That's free too. So there's literally like a 7-day audio journey. If you have the Bible app on your phone, it's actually on there as well. It's on iTunes.
Ed, I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It just got there like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I'm gonna totally do it through that app. I have it. I use it daily.
Yeah,
oh, that's so cool. Yes.
You didn't even know that, did you?
Nope,
That's so cool.
No idea.
All right. So I think that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. Yeah. So
sounds great.
What did we talk about today? We talked about how I don't have cancer. That's amazing.
Amen.
That's worth a whole episode right there. Yes. What was the second thing? What was so long? Oh, we talked about a marketing lesson from the cat girl.
Yep.
Attract and repel, people. Attract and repel. And then we had the amazing question from this anonymous person named Kristen, who asked if it's okay if she charges money for her stuff. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Kristen has done our graphic design, branding, and a lot of the marketing strategy all the way back to, I think, 2015, if I remember correctly. So a lot of the colors and brands, all of the colors and brands and pictures that you see came out of her mind. So yes, you're worth, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're worth it. So
thanks, Ed.
Anyway, let me pray for you as we're leaving this show, as you're watching and listening. Let me pray for you, and then we'll wrap it up. So thanks, Lord, for this amazing person listening to this show right now. We ask that you would bless them, Lord, that one or two of the things that we talked about today would make a huge impact. And thank you for blessing them as well. By the way, I should remind you, I'm supposed to say this earlier. There's a like button, hit that. There's a share button. You're under contractual obligation to hit that button if you watch this show. There's also a place where you can make comments. And on iTunes, especially, those comments, the 5-star comments, are actually really important. So that would be a huge favor. By the way, if you do that, please send it to me via email so that I can say a proper thank you.
Did
That's
you
all,
say
Kristen.
subscribe? Sorry,
What's
I
that?
thought, isn't there a subscribe button too, and then hit the bell on YouTube or
There's
something?
a lot of
So
buttons.
yeah,
So I feel like it's a good 5 or 7 minute commitment for you
yeah.
to make. Thumbs up, subscribe, bell, comment, like the comment, send me the comment so I can send you back the comment. Anyway,
Yeah.
please do that.
Yeah.
That's it. We'll see you next time. Ed Talks Live is out.